The huge building loomed above me. The brick was worn, the windows were boarded, but the feeling remained the same. Growing up, hell was a place called home. Misunderstood and often ignored, I learned very quickly to be seen, not heard, within the bare walls of my childhood home. Especially after. However, at school, I blossomed. I was a wallflower sprung to life within the halls of Forest Drive Academy. It wasn't necessarily the friends I made, or the freedom I found to be myself, it was the safety I felt there. The warmth. The love. I could feel myself smiling, then frowned. Why the hell did they close it down? I never got any answers. Not from the internet, not from the news, not from anywhere. Naomi, my best friend Kennedy, and her boyfriend Evan were here to get them straight from the source. There was no security. No cop cars, no nosy neighbors peeking out their doors at us. It was almost eerie, but my excitement overrode all else. The three of us exchanged glances, as we readied ourselves to breach the front doors. 20 minutes, a crowbar, and lots of curse words later, the doors swung open, and a long dark gullet lay in wait to swallow us whole. With another look shared betwixt us, we stepped forth into the shadows. Our flashlights danced across the somehow pristine vinyl floor, and swam lazily on the naked white walls. We walked up towards the office doors and tried the knob. It twisted easily, and we stepped inside, the carpet immediately dampening our footsteps. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't thick and heavy, nor was it non-existent. It flittered somewhere in between, constantly there, but not long enough to be identified. Finding nothing worth note there, we headed out into the hallway, and froze in confusion and disbelief. Beyond the closed doors of the classrooms lining the hall, lights shone through the cracks at the bottom. Cautiously, Evan walked over to one of the doors, and peeked in the little window. He looked back over to us. From there, I can't see anything. But the light, he whispered. See if you can hear anything. Put your ear up to it. If somebody's in there, we gotta go. I whispered back. He nodded, then listened, and within seconds, he shot up and away from the door. That's just creepy. What did you hear? Kennedy grabbed his hand, voice concerned, but steady. Carnival music. I looked at him, then made my way to the door, crouching over to press my ear to the cool wood. I heard it too. Unable to control my curiosity, I slowly turned the handle, gingerly pushing the door open. The door groaned on its hinges as it swung open, revealing a wide-open field, set up with games, rides, and food stations. Bright lights and musical tinkling warbled in the air as my brain almost blue-screened. I turned around to tell my friends, but they were already behind me, faces mirroring my own. Kennedy stepped forward, her eyes trained on something I had to follow her line of sight to see. A medium-sized blue teddy bear, worn and ripped in places, sat innocuously upon one of the game stands. Scooping it up into her arms, she looked back at us, eyes brimming with tears. I know this place. My bear, she's not here, she can't. She spun back around, looking wildly around the fairground. Then, faintly, we could hear a woman's voice upon the wind. Kennedy, Allie. Where are you? Kennedy's face dropped, and she looked back to where the door stood slightly ajar. We need to go. She whimpered in a childlike voice. Oh, okay. I looked at Evan and we both grabbed one of her hands and briskly walked towards the door, as the voice behind us grew clearer and closer. Suddenly, a hand landed on Kennedy's shoulder. We yanked her away, and began to run, none of us daring to look back. The voice went from pleading to sobbing, to filled with a rage I'd never heard before. We all reached the door, pushing each other through while slamming it shut. What the hell? I had been squeezing my eyes shut, and once I'd opened them, I realized we were not back in that darkened hallway. Nor were we on the campground any longer. We were in a basement. The basement of my childhood home. The faded pastel lights, lilac walls. The dark gray carpet, ugly and stained. Drawings by my own hand coating the wall. Even the same scent of slightly damp earth mixed with the smell of drier sheets and something far away rotting. Allie, it was all my fault. I looked away. I looked away from her for a second. And she was gone. Kennedy sobbed. Evan looked from me to her, puzzled. I grabbed Kennedy's hand and took a deep breath. Ken. Look at me. You were a child. It was not your fault. She was the parent. She was the one responsible. I need you to understand that. She sighed, eyes lowering to the ground. What the hell is happening? None of this makes sense. This place makes no sense. The dimensions, Evan murmured, more to himself than to us. The rotting smell intensified as I could feel an abject horror seep into my veins. A low, melodic humming dripped over me like honey, warm and sickly sweet. Kennedy began to gag as Evan pulled his shirt over his nose, eyes squinting in disgust. That tune. I knew it. It was the same tune my brother used to hum to me when I was little. But that was before he disappeared, and then reappeared months later, dead in our very own basement. We never found out how he died, or how he ended up in the crawlspace. Please, please, please. I whispered to myself, heart drumming wildly. My eyes darted over to the closet door at the foot of the basement steps. Door. I whispered, gesturing to them with a nod. Swiftly and silently, we made our way over, opened the door, and stepped into the unknown. With a sigh of relief, my eyes fell upon a familiar vinyl floor and set of bare walls. Hurriedly, I made my way to the front doors, wanting to get as far away from this damned place as possible. I crashed through the threshold and into night air, skin prickling into goose flesh. Panting, I spun around and stared up at the building, a smile curved onto my face. The sacrifice had been accepted. A hand clasped onto my shoulder, and if possible, my smile grew wider.
Little sister. It is almost done.
I nodded. A dull banging from the building could be heard, as Kennedy and Evan banged on the rotted boards of the windows, then eventually grew silent. A tear escaped as I smiled again. We would all be together again soon.